71 hours. That was how long Petty Officer First Class Jordan Reeves had been lying in the exact same position, watching the valley below through a rifle scope that had become an extension of his body. 71 hours of absolute stillness, broken only by the microscopic adjustments needed to track wind shifts and the occasional necessity of relieving himself into a bottle without moving more than his hand. One more hour and a helicopter would come. One more hour and this nightmare of isolation would end. Then Reeves saw them. 6 figures moving through the wadi in a tactical formation that screamed American Special Operations. SEAL Team 3. If the intelligence briefing had been accurate, they were supposed to be 15 clicks north, conducting their own reconnaissance mission. But there they were, 400 meters below his observation post, walking directly into a valley that Reeves had been watching enemy fighters prepare for the last 2 hours. The ambush was perfect. Reeves could see it all from his elevated position. 12 insurgents positioned in the rocks on the western ridge. 8 more concealed in a dried stream bed to the east. 1 machine gun team set up in defilade, waiting for the Americans to reach the kill zone. The SEALs had no idea. They were moving with confidence, weapons ready but relaxed, trusting their training and their brothers and the assumption that they owned this piece of Afghanistan. Reeves pressed his eye tighter against the scope, his heart hammering against the rocky ground beneath him. This was not his mission. His mission was to observe and report, to remain invisible, to maintain radio silence unless absolutely critical. He was gathering intelligence on enemy movement patterns, building a picture that would be analyzed by people far above his pay grade. In 71 hours, he had not made a single sound that could be heard beyond 3 feet. He had not transmitted a single radio call. He had been a ghost. The mission briefing had been explicit. Chief Warrant Officer Dalton had looked Reeves dead in the eye and said the words that now burned in his memory. You are not there to engage. You are not there to interfere. You are there to watch and nothing else. If you see something happening, you document it. You do not become part of it. Breaking in can get you killed and compromises future operations. Am I clear, Petty Officer Reeves? Crystal clear, Senior Chief. That had been Reeves's response 72 hours ago, standing in a plywood operations center that smelled like sweat and burned coffee. But Chief Dalton had never said what to do if you watched 6 of your brothers walk into an ambush that would kill every single one of them in the next 90 seconds. Reeves tracked his scope to the lead SEAL, reading the man's body language from 400 meters away. Confident, alert but not alarmed. The point man was good, scanning his sectors, weapon up and ready. But he was looking for threats at his level, not threats from the high ground that the insurgents had claimed 8 hours before the Americans even knew this valley existed. The machine gun team shifted slightly, the barrel of their PKM traversing to follow the SEAL's movement. Reeves could see the assistant gunner feeding the belt, preparing for the moment when his partner opened fire and turned 6 American warriors into statistics. Before we continue, drop a comment and let us know what state you're watching from. Maybe you know someone who served in special operations. Reeves's fingers found the turret knobs on his scope without conscious thought, making the tiny adjustments that would account for the downward angle, the slight crosswind from the northwest, the density altitude in this godforsaken mountain valley. His Mk-13 sniper rifle was loaded with .300 Winchester Magnum, rounds that could reach out past 1,000 meters with accuracy that had earned him the nickname Surgeon in his platoon. 400 meters was a chip shot. His breathing slowed automatically, the way it had been trained to slow 10,000 times on ranges from Coronado to Virginia Beach to every dusty firebase in between. He had 71 hours of practice staying absolutely still. 71 hours of controlling every involuntary movement, every muscle twitch, every breath that might give away his position to the enemy fighters who had passed within 50 meters of his hide site at least a dozen times. The SEALs were 60 seconds from the kill zone. Reeves could see it all playing out. The machine gun would open first, catching them in the open with nowhere to go. Then the riflemen would pour fire from both flanks, a classical-shaped ambush that would devastate the American team before they could establish effective cover. At least 4 would die in the first 10 seconds. The other 2 might last another minute, maybe 2 if they were lucky and found decent cover. But with that machine gun pouring fire into their position, luck would not be enough. Reeves thought about Lieutenant Shun, his mentor, the man who had pulled a cocky kid fresh out of BUD/S aside and taught him what it really meant to be a SEAL. Not the Hollywood version, the real version. The version where you made impossible choices and lived with the consequences and trusted your brothers to have your back when everything went sideways. Lieutenant Shun had been killed 6 months ago in a valley not much different from this one. Reeves had not been there. He had been stateside, recovering from a training injury that had kept him off the deployment roster. He had read the after-action report until he could recite it from memory. Shun had died covering his team's withdrawal, holding a position alone against overwhelming fire until his brothers made it to the extraction point. 45 seconds to the kill zone. The lead SEAL was scanning left, not seeing the fighters concealed in the stream bed to his right. The machine gunner's finger was moving toward his trigger. Reeves had a choice: follow his orders, maintain position, stay invisible, and watch 6 men die, or take a shot that would save their lives and compromise everything he had endured for the last 71 hours. One shot would reveal his position. One shot would bring every enemy fighter in this valley looking for him. One shot would end his mission and possibly his life. But one shot might also be the difference between 6 families getting a flag and 6 warriors going home alive. The machine gunner's finger touched his trigger. Reeves made his choice. His own finger pressed smoothly through the trigger brake of his MK-13. The rifle bucked against his shoulder with a familiar authority. 400 meters downrange, the machine gunner's head snapped back and he collapsed across his weapon. The shot echoed across the valley like the crack of doom. The ambush below erupted into chaos, but it was chaos without a machine gun. The SEALs hit the dirt, returning fire even as confusion rippled through their ranks. They had no idea where the shot had come from. Neither did the insurgents, who were suddenly dealing with a threat they had not planned for, coming from a direction they had not expected. Reeves worked his bolt, chambering another round. He was no longer invisible. The mission was no longer what it had been. Everything had changed in the space of a single trigger press. But 6 men were still breathing, still fighting, still alive. And Jordan Reeves had 71 hours of practice staying alive in impossible situations. He was about to find out if that was enough. The insurgents were screaming in Pashto, their voices carrying across the valley in waves of panic and confusion. Reeves tracked his scope across the western ridge, identifying targets with the cold precision that separated professional snipers from everyone else who could shoot straight. 2 fighters breaking cover, trying to relocate to a better firing position. He led the first one by half a body width, accounting for his movement, and sent a round through his center mass. The man dropped. The second fighter froze, fatal hesitation. Reeves put him down before he could process what was happening. Below, the SEAL team had found cover in a shallow depression that would not hold for long. Reeves could see them working through their immediate action drills, establishing fields of fire, conducting a hasty head count. 6 shapes moving with a fluid coordination that came from hundreds of hours training together. They were alive because of him, but they had no idea who had fired that first shot or where it had come from. Reeves had been part of a team like that once. SEAL Team 5, 2nd Platoon, back before his shoulder injury had sidelined him for 8 months. Back when he was just another operator in a tight group of brothers who trusted each other with their lives every single day. The injury had healed, but by the time he was cleared for duty, his platoon had rotated without him. The new guys were solid, professional, competent, but they were not his brothers. Not the way 2nd Platoon had been. That was why Senior Chief Dalton had tagged him for this solo reconnaissance mission. "You're a loner anyway, Reeves. Might as well make it official." The words had stung more than Dalton probably intended. Or maybe exactly as much as he intended. A rifle cracked from the streambed position. One of the SEALs returned fire, his M4 chattering in controlled bursts. Reeves shifted his scope, found the muzzle flash, calculated the offset to the shooter's actual position behind a rock. He had done this math so many times it was automatic. Distance, 420 meters. Wind, 3 miles per hour from left to right. Elevation, compensate for the downward angle. He fired. The insurgent's rifle went silent. The problem with revealing his position was that now he had to maintain fire superiority or the enemy would maneuver on him. Reeves had 8 rounds left in his magazine and 2 more magazines in his kit. 54 total rounds of .300 Winchester Magnum. He had counted them obsessively during the long hours of waiting, the way a miser counts coins. Now he was spending that currency to keep 6 strangers alive. Not strangers, brothers. Every man who wore the trident was a brother, even if Reeves had never met them, even if they did not know his name. Movement on the eastern slope. 3 fighters trying to flank the SEAL position, using dead ground to mask their approach. Reeves tracked the lead man, waiting for him to expose himself. Patience was the sniper's greatest weapon. His instructors at the Naval Special Warfare Sniper Course had drilled that into him until it became reflex. Do not take the shot you can make. Wait for the shot you cannot miss. The fighter emerged from behind a boulder, AK-47 at the ready, eyes fixed on the SEALs below. Reeves fired. The man went down hard. His 2 companions scattered, diving for cover, their flanking maneuver broken before it could develop into a real threat. Reeves worked his bolt, the mechanical action smooth and familiar. Chamber another round. Acquire target. Control breathing. Press trigger. The rhythm of precision violence. The radio in his ear suddenly crackled to life. All units, this is Overwatch 7. Contact, contact, contact. Grid November, Whiskey 473829. Multiple enemy fighters engaging friendly forces. Request immediate air support in QRF. That was not Reeves's voice. That was one of the pinned SEALs, breaking radio silence because the situation had deteriorated past the point where protocol mattered. Good. Let them call for help. Let the cavalry come. Reeves would keep them alive until the helicopters arrived. Another insurgent broke cover, this one carrying an RPG launcher. Reeves put a round through him before he could level the weapon at the SEAL position. The launcher clattered against the rocks and used. Small victories. Stack enough small victories and you win the fight. The SEALs were returning fire now with disciplined aggression, making the insurgents pay for every second they stayed exposed. Reeves recognized the tactics, the way they were working their sectors, the way they were conserving ammunition while maintaining suppressive fire. These were professionals. They would fight hard and smart for as long as they had bullets and breath. But they were still in a bad position, still outnumbered, still taking fire from multiple directions. Without Reeves picking off the insurgents who tried to maneuver, they would be overrun in minutes. His shoulder ached from 71 hours of holding the same position. His mouth tasted like dust and dehydration. His water had run out 6 hours ago. His last meal had been an energy bar at the 48-hour mark. His body was screaming at him to move, to stretch, to relieve the pressure on muscles that had been locked in place for 3 days. He ignored it all. Pain was temporary. Death was permanent. The men below him were alive because he had chosen to break his orders. He would keep them alive for as long as his ammunition lasted and his body held together. 2 more fighters appeared on the western ridge, trying to set up another machine gun position. Reeves dropped the first one with a headshot at 450 meters. The second man grabbed the machine gun and tried to drag it to cover. Reeves fired again. Mississippi. The round impacted 2 inches left. He worked the bolt, adjusted his aim, fired. The second man collapsed. 47 rounds remaining. He was burning through his ammunition faster than he wanted, but there was no choice. Every round he fired was keeping the enemy suppressed, keeping them reactive instead of proactive, buying time for the QRF to arrive. The radio crackled again. Overwatch 7, this is Hawk 1-3. We are inbound your position, ETA 12 minutes. Mark your location with infrared strobe. Advise situation. The SEAL team leader responded immediately, his voice tight with controlled stress. Hawk 1-3, Overwatch 7. 6 personnel, no casualties at this time. Approximately 20 enemy fighters, small arms, and RPG. We have unknown friendly providing sniper support from high ground to our west. Cannot identify source. Be advised, friendly sniper is danger close to enemy positions. Reeves allowed himself a grim smile. They knew someone was helping them. They just did not know who or why. That was fine. He did not need recognition. He needed them to survive the next 12 minutes. An insurgent popped up from behind a rock, fired a wild burst toward the SEALs, then ducked back down. Undisciplined. Panicked. The ambush had fallen apart the moment their machine gunner died. Now they were just trying to survive, same as everyone else in this valley. Reeves tracked his scope across the killing field, marking positions, counting heads, calculating threats. 17 enemy fighters still in the fight by his count. 3 were wounded and out of action. 2 were dead from his rifle. The rest were pinned down or suppressed, unable to maneuver effectively. 12 minutes. He could hold for 12 minutes. He had held for 71 hours. 12 more minutes was nothing. But then he saw the technical truck. It came roaring up the valley road from the south, a Toyota pickup with a heavy machine gun mounted in the bed. The same kind of vehicle that had killed Lieutenant Shun. The same DSHK heavy machine gun that could chew through cover and body armor like it was tissue paper. Reeves shifted his aim, trying to get an angle on the gunner. The truck was moving fast, bouncing over the rough terrain, making a difficult shot nearly impossible. He fired anyway. Mississippi. The round sparked off the truck's hood. He worked the bolt, fired again. Another miss. The truck skidded to a stop 300 meters from a SEAL position. The gunner swung the heavy machine gun toward the Americans and opened fire. The DSHK roared like an angry god, throwing 50 caliber rounds downrange at a cyclic rate that turned suppression into destruction. Reeves saw one of the SEALs go down, saw the other scrambling for better cover that did not exist. 11 minutes until the helicopters arrived. An eternity when a heavy machine gun was tearing your position apart. He settled his crosshairs on the gunner, led him by a fraction, controlled his breathing, and pressed the trigger. The gunner jerked and fell backward out of the truck bed. But another fighter immediately climbed up to take his place, grabbing the gun's handles, swinging it back toward the SEALs. Reeves fired. The second gunner dropped. A third man climbed into the truck bed. Reeves killed him too. But there would always be another man willing to man that gun, and Reeves was down to 43 rounds with 11 minutes to hold. The mathematics of survival were getting ugly. But Jordan Reeves had not held his position for 71 hours just to watch his brothers die in the 72nd. He chambered another round and found his next target. The fight was just beginning. The fourth gunner lasted 7 seconds before Reeves put him down. The fifth made it to 3. After that, the insurgents stopped volunteering for the position. The technical sat there with its engine running and its heavy machine gun unmanned, a silent threat that nobody wanted to activate. Reeves swept his scope across the valley, reading the battlefield the way a chess master reads a board. The enemy was rattled. They had lost their numerical advantage through panic and poor fire discipline. What had started as a perfect ambush had devolved into a desperate firefight where they were taking casualties without inflicting them. The psychological momentum had shifted. But momentum did not stop bullets, and the insurgents still had the SEALs pinned in a position that would not survive sustained fire. Reeves counted 9 minutes until the helicopters arrived. 9 minutes was an eternity in combat time. His radio earpiece crackled with crosstalk. The SEAL team leader coordinating with the inbound quick reaction force, giving grid coordinates, describing the tactical situation in the clipped shorthand of men who lived in crisis. Then a different voice cut through, calm and analytical. Overwatch 7, Hawk 1-3. We have visual on your position. Confirm you have 1 friendly wounded, 5 effectives. We also have thermal signature approximately 600 meters west of your position, elevated terrain. Single heat source, stationary. Advise if this is your unknown friendly support. There was a pause. Reeves could imagine the SEAL team leader processing that information, understanding for the first time that one person had been providing overwatch for their entire engagement. One sniper holding off 20 insurgents while maintaining a position that had kept him invisible for 3 days. Hawk 1-3, that has to be our guardian angel. Recommend you do not engage that position. Unknown friendly has been keeping us alive. Copy that. Overwatch 7. Angels inbound in 8 minutes. Hold tight. 8 minutes. Reeves had 40 rounds left. The mathematics still worked, but the margin for error was gone. Every shot had to count. Every target had to be a threat worth the ammunition expenditure. A cluster of fighters was gathering behind a rock formation on the eastern slope, probably planning their next move. Reeves could not see them directly, but he could see the muzzle flash patterns, the way they were concentrating fire, the telltale signs of men preparing for a coordinated push. He adjusted his position slightly, finding a gap in the rocks where he might get a shot when they moved. His body screamed in protest. 71 hours of immobility followed by sustained precision shooting had pushed his muscles past any reasonable limit. His right shoulder throbbed where the rifle stock pressed against it with each shot. His eyes burned from staring through the scope. The dehydration headache that had been building for hours now felt like an ice pick behind his left eye. He pushed it all into a mental compartment labeled later and focused on keeping 6 men breathing. The fighters on the eastern slope broke cover, 4 of them moving in a tactical rush toward the SEAL position. Reeves dropped the lead man at 380 meters. The second man dove for cover. Reeves tracked him, waited for him to think he was safe, then fired through the gap he had identified earlier. The insurgent jerked and went still. The remaining 2 fighters scrambled backward, their assault broken. 38 rounds. Movement from the south. More vehicles coming up the valley road, kicking up dust trails visible even in the late afternoon light. Reeves shifted his scope, tried to identify the new arrivals. 2 more technical trucks, but these had fighters in the beds, not mounted weapons. Reinforcements. The enemy was doubling down. The SEAL team saw them too. Overwatch 7 to Hawk 1-3. We have additional vehicles approaching from the south. Estimate 10 to 12 additional enemy personnel. Hawk 1, 3 copies. We are pushing our birds. ETA, now 6 minutes. Hang on, brothers. The technical trucks skidded to a stop 400 meters south of the SEAL position. Fighters poured out of the beds, taking cover, adding their weapons to the fight. Fresh insurgents who had not spent the last 20 minutes being systematically hunted by an invisible sniper. Fresh insurgents with full ammunition loads and the confidence that came from not watching their friends die. Reeves forced himself to breathe slowly, fighting the urge to rush his shots. Patience, discipline, the fundamentals that had been drilled into him until they became instinct. He was not fighting 12 new insurgents. He was engaging targets one at a time, reducing the threat incrementally, buying seconds that would add up to minutes that would add up to survival. A fighter broke from the southern group, sprinting toward a better firing position. Reeves led him, calculated the deflection, fired. The man tumbled. Another fighter tried the same maneuver. Same result. The rest of the southern group went to ground, suddenly aware that movement meant death. 36 rounds. 6 minutes. The wounded SEAL was being worked on by his teammates. Reeves could see the medic moving with practiced efficiency, applying pressure, checking vitals, doing everything possible with limited resources in an active firefight. The wounded man was still moving, still conscious. That was good. That meant he had a chance. Lieutenant Chun had not had a chance. Chun had taken 3 rounds in the first seconds of his final firefight, but had kept fighting for another 6 minutes while his team withdrew. 6 minutes of covering fire while bleeding out. 6 minutes of impossible courage that saved 11 men. Reeves had read the after-action report so many times he could recite the timeline exactly. Chun had died alone, buying time with his life, trusting his brothers to make it count. Reeves was not going to let these 6 SEALs die. Not while he had ammunition and a beating heart. An RPG whooshed out from the western ridge, trailing smoke as it arced toward the SEAL position. The SEALs scattered. The rocket impacted where they had been seconds before, throwing dirt and rock in a violent explosion that made Reeves flinch even from 600 meters away. He tracked back along the smoke trail, found the launcher, found the man reloading it. 410 meters, slight upward angle, compensate for the slope. Fire. The RPG gunner collapsed across his weapon. 35 rounds. 5 minutes. The radio chatter was constant now. The helicopter pilots coordinating their approach, the SEAL team calling out targets, the quick reaction force getting mission updates. Reeves listened to it all, with half his attention, while the other half stayed locked on his scope, searching for threats, calculating shots, maintaining the thin line between chaos and catastrophe. 3 insurgents tried a coordinated movement from different positions, trying to overwhelm his ability to engage multiple targets. Reeves picked the most dangerous one, the fighter with the best angle on the SEALs, and dropped him. The other 2 hesitated, fatal indecision. He worked his bolt, acquired the second target, fired. 2 down. The third man broke and ran. Reeves let him go. Running men were not killing anyone. 33 rounds. 4 minutes. His hands were shaking now, fine tremors from exhaustion and dehydration and sustained stress. He forced them steady through pure will. Snipers did not shake. Snipers were rocks. Snipers were ice. Snipers were machines that turned breath control and trigger press into precise violence at impossible distances. The SEALs were consolidating their position, preparing for extraction, maintaining suppressive fire that kept the insurgents pinned. They were professionals executing their training under pressure. They would make it. Reeves would make sure they made it. A fighter popped up with an AK-47, fired a burst toward the Americans, ducked back down. Undisciplined spray and pray. Reeves waited. The fighter popped up again in almost the same spot. Predictable. Fatal. Reeves fired. The insurgent went down and did not get back up. 32 rounds. 3 minutes. Thunder rolled across the valley, but it was not weather. It was the distinctive whop-hop-hop of UH-60 Blackhawks inbound at combat speed. The cavalry was almost here. The sound alone would change the dynamics of the fight. The insurgents knew what American helicopters meant. Air superiority, overwhelming firepower, the end of their ambush. Some of them were already breaking contact, pulling back toward covered routes that would let them escape. Reeves let them go. His mission was not to kill every insurgent in Afghanistan. His mission was to keep 6 SEALs alive until extraction. Everything else was secondary. The helicopters came in fast and low, door gunners already engaging targets as they flared to land. Minigun fire ripped across the valley, tearing up insurgent positions with devastating effect. The whole character of the fight changed in seconds. The hunters became the hunted. Reeves watched through his scope as the SEALs moved toward the landing zone, carrying their wounded teammate, maintaining security, executing the extraction drill they had practiced 1,000 times. Professional, controlled, alive. All 6 of them were going home. Reeves had made sure of it. 32 rounds remained in his kit, but he would not need them now. The fight was over, except his own extraction was not for another hour, and every insurgent in the valley now knew someone was up here in the rocks. Someone who had killed at least 15 of their brothers. Someone they very badly wanted to find. The Blackhawks lifted off in a storm of rotor wash and dust, carrying the SEAL team away from the valley that had almost become their grave. Reeves watched them disappear over the ridgeline, feeling a strange mixture of satisfaction and isolation. He had saved them. Now he had to save himself. His extraction window was 63 minutes away. 63 minutes alone in a position that was no longer secret, with insurgents actively searching for him, with ammunition running low and his body failing. The mission parameters had changed the moment he fired that first shot. Now he was playing a different game entirely. Reeves conducted a quick inventory. 32 rounds of .300 Winchester Magnum. 2 liters of water that he had been saving for the extraction movement. 3 energy bars. 1 infrared strobe for marking his pickup zone. His M4 carbine with 4 magazines. His SIG Sauer P226 with 3 magazines. Enough firepower to fight, but not enough to win a sustained engagement. He needed to relocate. Staying in his current hide site was suicide. The insurgents had watched the helicopters, seen where the sniper fire had originated, done the basic math. They would be coming for him soon with numbers and anger and the kind of motivation that came from watching friends die. Moving after 71 hours of absolute stillness was agony. His muscles screamed as he shifted position, cramping and protesting and threatening to give out entirely. He forced them to work anyway, conducting a slow tactical withdrawal from his observation post, moving 20 meters at a time, stopping to scan for threats, then moving again. The sun was dropping toward the western horizon, painting the valley in shades of amber and shadow. Darkness would help him. Darkness was a sniper's friend. But darkness was still 40 minutes away, and his extraction was not until full dark. He found a secondary position in a cluster of boulders 60 meters from his original hide site. Not perfect, but defensible. He could see the approaches, had multiple escape routes, could establish interlocking fields of fire with his rifle and carbine. It would have to do. Reeves settled into the new position and immediately drank half a liter of water. Discipline said to conserve it. Biology said he was already dangerously dehydrated and needed to rehydrate before his fine motor skills degraded further. He chose biology. Dead men did not need to worry about water conservation. His radio crackled. Overwatch 7 to unknown call sign. Unknown call sign. Do you copy? Reeves keyed his handset, breaking the radio silence he had maintained for 3 days. This is Spectre 2. I copy. Overwatch 7. There was a pause, then the SEAL team leader's voice came back, tight with emotion. Spectre 2, on behalf of my team, thank you does not even begin to cover it. You saved our lives. Who are you, and what is your situation? Reeves allowed himself a thin smile. SEAL Team 5, solo reconnaissance mission, currently compromised and awaiting extraction at primary pickup zone. I am mobile and have adequate defensive capability. Appreciate the gratitude, but suggest you focus on getting your wounded teammate to proper medical care. Copy that, Spectre 2. Our bird is inbound to Bagram now. I am passing your situation up the chain. They're going to want to know about the SEAL who held off an insurgent company alone for 12 minutes. 14 minutes, Reeves thought but did not say. And it was not a company, just 28 insurgents with bad tactics and worse luck. Before the SEAL team leader could respond, a different voice cut into the frequency. Spectre 2, this is Raven 6. Authenticate Bravo Mike. Reeves pulled his authentication card from his kit, found a code. Raven 6, authentication is Victor Tango. Good copy, Spectre 2. Be advised, we are tracking increased enemy radio traffic in your area. They are organizing a search. Estimate 15 to 20 personnel converging on your last known position. Your extraction has been moved up. New pickup time is 45 minutes. Can you make it to the primary LZ? Reeves looked at his map, calculated distances and terrain. The primary landing zone was 800 meters northeast of his current position, across open ground for the first 300 meters, then through a narrow wadi that would provide concealment but would also funnel him into a potential kill zone. Affirmative, Raven 6. I can make the LZ. Request update on enemy positions. Stand by. Reeves used the pause to prepare for movement. He stripped down his kit, abandoning everything that was not essential. The extra water bottles went into a crack in the rocks. The remaining energy bars went into his cargo pocket. He kept his weapons, his ammunition, his medical kit, and his radio. Everything else stayed behind. Spectre 2, Raven 6. We have thermal imaging from Overwatch Bird. Enemy search teams are moving up the valley from the south, approximately 12 personnel. Additional group of 8 moving along the western ridge. They are not yet at your position, but will be in approximately 20 minutes. Recommend you move now. Reeves acknowledged and began his movement. 20 minutes was not much of a head start, but it was what he had. He moved in tactical bounds, using every scrap of cover, keeping his profile low, trading speed for stealth. The insurgents were looking for a sniper who had killed their friends. They would be motivated and angry and probably not very careful. That could work in his favor. The open ground was the worst part. 300 meters with no cover, just low scrub brush and rocks that would not stop a determined squirrel. Reeves crossed it in a low crouch, moving as fast as his exhausted legs would carry him, expecting bullets to start impacting around him at any second. Nothing. He made it to the wadi entrance without contact. Small victories. The wadi was a natural drainage cut into the hillside, steep walls on both sides, a sandy bottom littered with rocks and debris. Reeves moved down the center, rifle up, scanning for threats. The walls rose higher as he went deeper, cutting off his view of the surrounding terrain. He hated the claustrophobia of it, the inability to see what was happening beyond the immediate channel. His radio hissed. Spectre 2, Raven 6. Enemy search team has reached your original position. They're spreading out, searching the area. You have approximately 10 minutes before they reach the wadi entrance. Copy. I am halfway to the LZ. Continuing movement. The wadi turned sharply to the left. Reeves slowed, approached the corner tactically, then froze. Voices. Pushto. Coming from ahead, not behind. He pressed himself against the wadi wall and listened. 2 voices. Maybe 3. They were moving down the wadi from the opposite direction, searching it just like Reeves was using it. They would meet in less than a minute. Reeves had 3 options. Engage them with his suppressed M4, hoping to kill them quietly before they could alert the other search teams. Try to bypass them by climbing out of the wadi and crossing the high ground. Or retreat back the way he came and find another route to the LZ. None of the options were good. The first risked a firefight that would bring every insurgent in the area. The second exposed him on open ground. The third meant missing his extraction window. He chose option 1. Better to control the engagement than let it control him. Reeves moved to the corner, took a knee, brought his M4 up to a ready position. The suppressor would reduce the sound signature, but it would not eliminate it. He would get maybe 2 shots before the third man figured out what was happening. 2 shots to drop 2 threats before the situation went kinetic. The first insurgent came around the corner at a casual walk, AK-47 slung across his chest, talking to someone behind him. Reeves put 2 round center mass. The suppressor coughed. The insurgent dropped without a sound. The second man appeared, saw his companion down, started to raise his rifle. Reeves shot him in the face. He fell backward into the third man, who was just coming around the corner. The third insurgent stumbled, caught himself, brought his weapon up. Reeves fired. The round caught him in the shoulder, spinning him. He went down but did not stay down, scrambling behind a rock, shouting in Pashto. Reeves cursed and fired 3 more rounds at the insurgent's position, suppressing him, buying seconds. The shouting would bring the other search teams. His quiet infiltration had just become a running gun battle with 15 minutes until extraction and no good options left. He moved past the bodies, deeper into the wadi, pushing his exhausted body into a stumbling run. Behind him, he could hear more voices, more shouting, the sound of men organizing a pursuit. His radio crackled. Spectre 2, we are hearing gunfire from your position. Confirm your status. Reeves keyed his handset while running. Contact, 3 enemy, 2 Kia, 1 wounded. Additional forces responding. I am continuing to LZ. Might need a hot extraction. Copy all, Spectre 2. Birds are spinning up now. ETA to your position, 12 minutes. They will be coming in hot. Mark your position with IR strobe and stay low. 12 minutes. Reeves had to survive 12 more minutes. He had survived 71 hours. He could survive 12 more minutes. The wadi opened up ahead, widening into the landing zone. Open ground again. No cover. Just sand and rock and sky. Reeves broke from the wadi at a dead sprint, hearing shouts behind him, hearing the crack of rifle fire, feeling rounds snap past his head. He dove behind a boulder at the edge of the LZ and returned fire, his M4 barking short controlled burst back toward the wadi entrance. Movement. Muzzle flashes. More insurgents pouring out of the wadi, spreading out, trying to flank his position. Reeves activated his IR strobe and threw it 10 meters to his left, creating a false target. Then he shifted right, found new cover, and started engaging targets with the cold precision that had kept him alive for 71 hours. The helicopters could not arrive fast enough. The firefight at the landing zone was nothing like the controlled precision of long-range sniping. This was close-quarters chaos. Muzzle flashes in the growing darkness, rounds impacting the rocks around Reeves's position. The distinctive crack of AK-47's mixing with the sharper bark of his M4. This was violent and immediate and personal in a way that shooting at 400 meters could never be. Reeves dropped two insurgents who tried to rush his position, their aggression outpacing their tactical sense. He shifted to new cover as return fire chewed up the boulder he had just abandoned. Keep moving. Static positions meant death. The instructors at Fort Benning had drilled that into every Ranger student until it became muscle memory. His radio was alive with chatter. The extraction birds coordinating their approach, calling out distances and bearings. Raven 6 updating him on enemy positions tracked through thermal imaging. The whole apparatus of American military power spinning up to pull one SEAL out of a valley that wanted him dead. Spectre 2, Raven 6. We count 11 enemy personnel at your location, 3 more approaching from the south. Your extraction birds are 8 minutes out. Can you hold? Reeves fired a burst at movement near the Wadi entrance, saw a fighter drop. Affirmative. I can hold. Just get those birds here. He reloaded his M4, his 4th magazine, muscle memory guiding hands that shook from exhaustion. 20 rounds left in this magazine. One more mag after that. Then he would be down to his pistol and whatever rounds remained in his sniper rifle. The mathematics of survival were getting desperate again. An RPG whooshed out of the darkness. The rocket-propelled grenade trailing smoke and fire as it arced toward his position. Reeves threw himself flat. The warhead impacted 20 meters away, the explosion showering him with rock fragments and dirt. His ears rang. His vision swam. He forced himself up, forced himself to return fire, forced his body to keep functioning past the point where it wanted to quit. 2 insurgents were flanking left, using the darkness and broken terrain to close the distance. Reeves engaged them with short bursts, walking his fire across their position until one went down and the other scrambled for cover. His bolt locked back. Empty magazine. He dropped it, seated a fresh one, chamber round. Smooth and automatic despite the chaos. 5 minutes until extraction. It felt like 5 hours. Movement to his right. Reeves swung his rifle, identified the target, fired. The insurgent dropped his weapon and fell. Another fighter appeared in the same position, firing wildly, rounds snapping past Reeves's head close enough to feel the pressure wave. Reeves put 3 rounds into him and moved again, relocating before the muzzle flash from his rifle could draw concentrated fire. The darkness was complete now, the sun fully set, only starlight and muzzle flashes illuminating the landing zone. Reeves activated his night vision monocular, the green-tinted world suddenly revealing fighters moving through positions that had seemed empty moments before. Technology advantage. Small comfort when outnumbered 10-1. His legs were shaking, not from fear, from 71 hours of immobility followed by 2 hours of sustained combat movement and engagement. His body had nothing left to give. He was running on willpower and training and the simple refusal to die in this valley. An insurgent got close, too close, emerging from behind a rock outcropping 15 meters away. Reeves transitioned to his pistol, the SIG Sauer coming up smooth and fast, 3-shot center mass. The fighter went down. Reeves holstered and brought his rifle back up, scanning for the next threat. The radio crackled with the sound he had been waiting for. Spectre 2, this is Hawk 2-7. We have visual on your IR strobe. Coming in from the north. Pop smoke and keep your head down. Reeves pulled a smoke grenade from his kit, popped it, and threw it toward the center of the LZ. Purple smoke billowed into the night air, marking the landing zone, giving the pilots a visual reference point. He pressed himself into cover and listened to the most beautiful sound in the world. The Blackhawks came in low and fast, door gunners already engaging targets as they approached. The miniguns opened up with their distinctive buzzsaw roar, tracers cutting through the darkness like angry red lines. The insurgent fire slackened immediately as fighters dove for cover or die trying. The lead helicopter flared hard, kicking up a storm of dust and debris. Reeves broke from cover and sprinted toward it, his legs threatening to buckle with every step. 50 meters. 40. 30. Round cracked past him. He did not slow down. 20 meters from the bird, something slammed into his left thigh. Not a rock. Not debris. He knew what a bullet felt like. He had been shot. His leg buckled, but he kept moving, stumbling forward on momentum and desperation. A crew chief was in the door, reaching out, shouting something Reeves could not hear over the rotor wash and gunfire. Reeves grabbed the extended hand and was hauled bodily into the helicopter. He collapsed on the metal floor, his rifle clattering beside him. The crew chief was yelling into his radio. "We have Spectre 2. Going hot." The Black Hawk lifted off, even as the door gunner continued to engage targets below. Reeves rolled onto his back, breathing hard, watching the landing zone fall away beneath them. Muzzle flashes dotted the darkness. Then they were over the ridgeline, and the valley was behind them. The crew chief knelt beside Reeves, pulling a medical kit. "You are hit. Where?" "Left thigh." Reeves's voice sounded distant to his own ears. "Through and through, I think." The crew chief cut away Reeves's pant leg, examined the wound. "You think right. Clean entry and exit. You are one lucky son of a bitch." He started packing the wound, working with practiced efficiency. Reeves closed his eyes. 71 hours of watching. 14 minutes of saving a SEAL team. 2 hours of running and fighting his way to extraction. All of it culminating in a bullet through his leg in the final 20 meters. Lucky, right? The crew chief finished bandaging the wound and sat back. "That should hold you until we get to Bagram. You gonna tell me what the hell you were doing out there alone for 3 days?" "My job," Reeves said. "Must have been some job. We have been listening to the radio traffic. You saved 6 SEALs and killed at least 20 insurgents. Solo. The whole base is going to buy you a beer." "I just want to sleep," Reeves said. Sleep in water and food, and a bed that did not have rocks poking into his spine. The crew chief laughed. "You have earned it, brother. You have definitely earned it." The helicopter banked, heading north toward Bagram. Reeves let his eyes close, let the exhaustion finally claim him. He was safe. The mission was over. The SEALs were alive. Lieutenant Shun would have been proud. But even in his exhaustion, even in the relief of extraction, Reeves could not quite shake the memory of that moment at hour 71 when he had made his choice. The moment when he had decided that 6 lives were worth more than following orders. The moment when he had stopped being invisible. Senior Chief Dalton was going to have words with him about breaking protocol. There would be a debrief. There would be questions about why he had violated radio silence, why he had engaged when his mission was observation only, why he had compromised 3 days of intelligence gathering to save a team that was not his responsibility. Reeves already knew his answers. Because they were SEALs. Because they were his brothers. Because some choices were not really choices at all. The crew chief handed him a water bottle. "Drink slow. You look like you have not had water in days." Reeves took the bottle and drank, the water painful on his parched throat. 6 hours, he said. "I ran out 6 hours ago." "Jesus. And you were still making headshots at 400 meters? "Muscle memory," Reeves said. "Training takes over when everything else fails." "That is not training, brother. That is being a stone-cold killer." The crew chief shook his head in amazement. "Remind me never to piss you off." Reeves smiled despite himself. "I am a nice guy when people are not trying to kill me." The helicopter flew on through the night, carrying Jordan Reeves away from the valley, where he had spent 71 hours being invisible and 2 hours being impossible to ignore. His leg throbbed. His body ached. His head pounded. But he was alive. 6 other SEALs were alive. And somewhere in the darkness below, the insurgents who had set that ambush were learning a hard lesson about what happened when you cornered a SEAL sniper with nothing to lose and everything to prove. The mission had not gone according to plan, but the mission was complete. And sometimes that was all that mattered. Reeves woke up in a hospital bed at Bagram Airfield with an .4 in his arm and sunlight streaming through a window he did not remember seeing before. His leg throbbed with a deep ache that told him the morphine was wearing off. His mouth tasted like he had been chewing on a wool sock. His whole body felt like it had been beaten with hammers. But he was alive. That counted for something. A Navy corpsman noticed he was awake and came over, checking his vitals with brisk efficiency. "Welcome back, Petty Officer Reeves. You have been out for 14 hours. How do you feel?" "Like I got shot and spent 3 days lying on rocks." Reeves's voice was hoarse. "What is the damage?" "Gunshot wound to left thigh, clean through and through. No bone or major vessel involvement. Severe dehydration. Muscle strain throughout your core and extremities. Various contusions and abrasions. You'll be on light duty for a few weeks, but you'll make a full recovery." The corpsman smiled. "You are tougher than you look." Reeves tried to sit up and immediately regretted it. His muscles screamed in protest. "The 6 SEALs, the team I covered, are they okay?" "The wounded one is in surgery now, but expected to pull through. The others are fine. They have been asking about you." The corpsman adjusted the foredrip. "You have also had about a dozen senior officers asking when you will be awake. You're a popular guy today." "Great," Reeves muttered. "Nothing like getting shot to boost your social calendar." The door opened and Senior Chief Warrant Officer Dalton walked in, his expression unreadable. The corpsman took one look at him and found somewhere else to be. Dalton pulled up a chair and sat down heavily. "Petty Officer Reeves, we need to have a conversation about what the hell happened out there." Reeves met his eyes. "I broke protocol. I engaged when I should have observed. I compromised the mission. I accept full responsibility for my actions." Dalton was quiet for a long moment. "Do you know what your mission was really about?" "Intelligence gathering on enemy movement patterns. Building a baseline for future operations in that sector. That was part of it." Dalton leaned forward. "The other part was testing you. Seeing if you could handle extended solo operations. Seeing if you had the discipline to stay invisible no matter what happened. You failed that test the moment you fired your first shot." Reeves felt something cold settle in his stomach. "I understand. Do you? Because from where I am sitting, you violated direct orders, compromised a 3-day intelligence gathering mission, and put yourself in a position where you could have been killed or captured." Dalton's voice was hard. "You disobeyed everything I told you to do." "Yes, Senior Chief. I did. And in doing so, you saved 6 American lives. You eliminated approximately 30 enemy combatants. You held a position alone against overwhelming odds for over 2 hours. You demonstrated marksmanship and tactical decision, making that most operators could not achieve with a full team backing them up." Dalton's expression finally cracked into something that might have been a smile. "You also scared the hell out of every insurgent in that valley. We are getting intelligence reports that they think we have a ghost sniper who can kill from a mile away." Reeves blinked. "I am not following, Senior Chief. You failed the discipline test, but you passed a much more important one." Dalton stood up. "You passed the test of knowing when orders do not matter as much as doing the right thing. Lieutenant Chun would have been proud of you." The mention of Chun hit Reeves harder than he expected. He looked away. Chun followed orders. He stayed in position and covered his team. Chun made a choice just like you did. He chose his brothers over his own survival. That is exactly what you did. Dalton moved toward the door. "Get some rest, Reeves. When you are mobile again, we need to talk about your next assignment." "What assignment?" "The one where we stop wasting your talents on solo reconnaissance and put you somewhere you can actually make a difference." Dalton paused at the door. "By the way, the SEAL team you saved wants to meet you. I told them you needed rest first, but they are persistent. Expect visitors." After Dalton left, Reeves lay back and stared at the ceiling. His brain was still trying to process what had just happened. He had expected punishment, courts-martial, the end of his career. Instead, he was being praised for disobedience. The military was a strange place sometimes. An hour later, the door opened again. 6 men walked in wearing Navy Type 3 uniforms, moving with the easy confidence of professional warriors. Reeves recognized their faces from his scope view, though seeing them up close was different than watching them through glass at 400 meters. The team leader stepped forward, a lieutenant commander with sharp eyes and a firm handshake. "Petty Officer Reeves, I am Lieutenant Commander Hayes. This is my team." He gestured to the others, who nodded in acknowledgement. We wanted to thank you personally for what you did. You do not need to thank me, Reeves said. Any SEAL would have done the same. Hayes smiled. That is a nice sentiment, but we both know it is not true. What you did was extraordinary. You held off an enemy force alone for 14 minutes. You made shots that most snipers could not make on a range, much less under combat stress after 3 days without food or water. One of the other SEALs spoke up, a stocky guy with a Louisiana accent. I am Petty Officer Broussard. I was the machine gunner. When that first enemy gunner went down, I thought we had air support we did not know about. It took me 5 minutes to realize it was one person doing all that shooting. Another SEAL stepped forward, younger, with a bandage visible under his uniform shirt. Petty Officer Chun. No relation to your Lieutenant Chun, but I have heard the stories. He shook Reeves's hand carefully. I was the one who got hit. Your covering fire is the only reason I am still breathing. The doc says another 30 seconds without suppression, and I would have bled out before the medevac arrived. Reeves felt something tighten in his chest. I am glad you made it. Hayes pulled up a chair. We talked to Senior Chief Dalton. He told us about your situation, about how you were on a solo recon mission and broke protocol to help us. He said you will probably be reassigned. That is what he indicated, Reeves said. My team has an opening. Our primary sniper rotated back to the States last month. We have been operating with a temporary replacement, but we need someone permanent, someone we can trust. Hayes met Reeves's eyes. I want that someone to be you. If you're interested. Reeves stared at him. You want me on your team? After knowing me for 5 minutes? We have known you longer than that. We knew you when you were saving our lives. We knew you when you were making impossible shots under pressure. We knew you when you chose to help us instead of following orders that would have kept you safe. Hayes gestured to his team. Every man here trusts you with his life already. The only question is whether you trust us with yours. Reeves looked at the 6 faces surrounding his hospital bed. Warriors who had been through fire together. Brothers who had each other's backs without question. A team that was offering him something he had not had since his injury took him away from 2nd Platoon. Belonging. When do I start? Reeves asked. Hayes grinned. Soon as the doc clears you for duty. Welcome to Team 3, Reeves. Welcome home. The team stayed for another hour, sharing stories, asking questions, building the foundations of trust that would carry them through future missions. When they finally left, Reeves was exhausted again, but it was a different kind of exhaustion than he had felt in the valley. This was the exhaustion of being part of something again, of knowing that he would not be operating alone anymore, of understanding that the 71 hours of isolation and the 2 hours of desperate fighting had not just saved 6 lives. They had given him his brothers back. Reeves closed his eyes and let sleep take him, dreaming not of valleys and ambushes and impossible shots, but of future missions with a team that wanted him, valued him, trusted him. He had been invisible for 71 hours, but now, finally he was seen. 3 weeks later, Reeves walked into the Team 3 briefing room on his first day of active duty. His legs still ached when he pushed it hard, but the physical therapist had cleared him for full operations. The wound had healed clean, leaving a scar that would remind him forever of those final 20 meters to the extraction bird. Hayes was already there, along with the rest of the team. Broussard the machine gunner, Chun the rifleman who had taken a round in the ambush, Martinez the breacher, Kowalski the medic, Sullivan the communications specialist. 6 men who had faced death together and come out the other side. 7, now that Reeves was joining them. Hayes gestured to an empty chair. Good to see you mobile, Reeves. How is the leg? Functional. Reeves sat down. What is the mission? Hayes pulled up a map on the screen. Village called Carius Sabs, 30 clicks west of here. Intelligence indicates a high-value target is moving through the area in the next 48 hours. We insert tonight, establish overwatch, identify and capture or kill the target. Sounds straightforward, Reeves said. It would be, except the village is hostile territory. Local militia has been giving us problems for months. They have early warning systems set up. Every time we get close, the target vanishes. Hayes looked at Reeves. That is where you come in. You're going to get us there without being seen. Reeves studied the map, reading the terrain, identifying approach routes and observation positions. His mind automatically calculated distances and angles and fields of fire. There's a ridgeline here, overlooking the village. Good elevation, multiple egress routes. We can establish overwatch and control the high ground. That is what I thought too. Hay smiled. You and I think alike. That is a good sign. The briefing continued for another hour, covering contingencies and abort criteria and extraction protocols. Reeves absorbed it all, asking questions when he needed clarification, offering suggestions based on his experience. The team listened to him with respect, treating his input as valuable rather than dismissing him as the new guy. It felt right. It felt like being part of something again. That night, they inserted via helicopter 10 kilometers from the target village. The team moved through the darkness in tactical formation, Reeves taking point as the designated scout. His job was to get them to the ridgeline without being detected. His specialty, being invisible. The terrain was brutal, steep slopes, and loose rock that tried to turn every footstep into a small avalanche. Reeves moved slowly, testing each step, finding the solid ground, leading the team through the safest route. Behind him, 6 warriors trusted him to guide them right. It took 4 hours to cover 10 kilometers. When they reached the ridgeline, the sky was beginning to lighten in the east. Hayes checked his watch and nodded approval. Right on schedule. Good work, Reeves. They established their overwatch position in a cluster of boulders that provided concealment and clear lines of sight to the village below. Reeves set up his rifle, the familiar weight and balance of the MK-13 settling into his shoulder like an old friend. 500 meters to the village center. Easy range. Broussard set up his M240 machine gun, creating a base of fire that could suppress the entire village if necessary. Martinez and Sullivan established a perimeter. Kowalski inventoried his medical supplies. Chin took first watch on the radio. Hayes settled in next to Reeves. Now we wait. Could be hours. Could be days. Reeves smiled. I once spent 71 hours in one position. I can handle a few days. So I heard. Hayes pulled out an energy bar. You know the story has grown in the telling. Half the base thinks you killed 50 insurgents with nothing but a rifle and a bad attitude. Only 30, and I had a very good attitude about it. Reeves accepted the offered energy bar. Professional and courteous the whole time. Hayes laughed quietly. I believe it. You are the politest stone-cold killer I have ever met. They settled into the rhythm of overwatch operations. Hours of boredom punctuated by moments of activity. Villagers moving through the streets below. Children playing. Merchants setting up their stalls. Normal life continuing while 7 American warriors watched from the shadows. Reeves found himself thinking about Lieutenant Chin again. Chin had taught him that being a SEAL was not about the action movie moments. It was about the patience to wait, the discipline to watch, the judgment to know when to pull the trigger and when to hold fire. Chin had taught him that the hardest part of the job was living with the choices you made. Midday came and went. The team rotated watch schedules, eating cold rations, maintaining silence, staying invisible. Reeves felt the familiar sensation of time stretching, the way hours could feel like days when every minute required alertness. Then Sullivan spoke quietly into his radio handset. I have movement. Southeast approach to village. 3 vehicles, technical trucks with armed personnel. Hayes moved to Sullivan's position, pulled out his binoculars. Reeves stayed on his rifle, scanning the approaches through his scope. The vehicles rolled into the village and stopped in the center square. Armed men dismounted, moving with military precision that marked them as more than local militia. These were trained fighters. Then a man stepped out of the lead vehicle, and Reeves felt his breath catch. He knew that face. He had seen it in intelligence briefings. He had memorized every detail because this was the man responsible for more American deaths in this sector than anyone else. Commander Khalil Nazari, the ghost who had eluded capture for 3 years. The tactician who had planned a dozen ambushes, including the one that had killed Lieutenant Chun. Hayes was already on the radio. Raven 6, this is Overwatch 7. We have positive identification on primary target. Khalil Nazari is in the village square. Request permission to engage. The response came back immediately. Overwatch 7, you're clear hot. Capture if possible. Kill if necessary. Do not let him escape. Hayes turned to the team. This is it. Reeves, you have a shot. Take him alive if you can, but do not let him leave that square. Reeves settled behind his rifle, his breathing automatically slowing, his heart rate dropping. 500 meters. Light wind from the west. Target standing in the open, surrounded by bodyguards. He could take the shot right now. One round, center mass, and Khalil Nazari would pay for every American he had killed. Justice delivered at 2,800 feet per second. But Hayes had said capture if possible. That meant waiting for an opportunity. That meant patience. Reeves watched Khalil through his scope, this man who had taken his mentor, who had orchestrated the ambush that had nearly killed 6 of his new brothers. Rage burned in his chest, cold and controlled. Khalil moved toward a building, his bodyguards flanking him. Reeves tracked him, finger resting gently on the trigger. Not yet. Wait for the right moment. Wait for the shot that could not miss. Then Khalil stopped, turned, looked directly up at the ridgeline where the team was hidden. For a moment, Reeves had the irrational thought that the man could see him, could feel the crosshairs on his chest. Khalil spoke to his bodyguards, gesturing toward the ridgeline. The bodyguards raised their rifles, scanning the high ground. Hayes cursed quietly. They made us. How did they make us? Sullivan was already checking his equipment. I do not know. We did not break Emkin. No transmissions that could be intercepted. Khalil was moving now, heading back toward the vehicles, his security team forming a protective cordon around him. Reeves made his decision. I have a shot. Permission to engage? Hayes hesitated for exactly 2 seconds. Take it. Reeves exhaled halfway, held it, pressed the trigger. The rifle bucked. 500 meters downrange, one of Khalil's bodyguards dropped, hit in the shoulder. Not the shot Reeves had intended. Khalil had moved at the last instant. The village erupted into chaos. Khalil's men returned fire toward the ridgeline. The civilians scattered. Khalil himself was being hustled into one of the technical trucks. Reeves worked his bolt, acquired the target again. Khalil was diving into the truck bed. Reeves fired. The round punched through the truck's door panel. Khalil disappeared from view. The trucks were moving, engines roaring, kicking up dust as they fled the village. Reeves fired again, taking out the driver of the trail vehicle. The truck slewed sideways and crashed into a wall. But the other 2 vehicles kept going, Khalil inside one of them, escaping again. Hayes was on the radio calling for air support, but Reeves knew it would not matter. By the time helicopters arrived, Khalil would be gone, vanished into the network of caves and safe houses that had kept him free for 3 years. The man who killed Lieutenant Sean was getting away. Again, Reeves lowered his rifle, fury and frustration warring in his chest. He had taken a shot. He had done everything right. But it had not been enough. Hayes put a hand on his shoulder. Not your fault. He moved at the wrong time. These things happen. Reeves did not respond. He just stared at the dust trail of the departing vehicles, knowing that somewhere in that cloud was the target he had failed to stop. The mission was not over, but the easy part was done. Now came a hard part, going after Khalil into territory where he had all the advantages. The team broke down their Overwatch position in controlled chaos, packing equipment while maintaining security, preparing for movement before the village militia could organize a response. Hayes was on the radio, coordinating with higher command, his voice tight with controlled frustration. Raven 6, Overwatch 7. Target has fled northeast toward the Coast border region. Request permission to pursue. There was a pause, then the response came back. Negative, Overwatch 7. You are to extract to primary LZ and return to base. Air assets will conduct follow-up. Hayes' jaw tightened, but his voice remained professional. Copy, Raven 6. Extracting now. He switched frequencies and looked at Reeves. Air support is 20 minutes out. By then, Khalil will be deep in the mountains where helicopters cannot follow. We lost him. Reeves was staring through his scope at the dust trail, still visible on the horizon. There's another way. Let me go after him alone. I can move faster solo, stay off the main routes, track him into the mountains. Hayes shook his head. Negative. We operate as a team. I'm not sending you into hostile territory alone. You did once before. Reeves lowered his rifle and met Hayes' eyes. That solo recon mission. You were testing to see if I could handle it. Well, I can. Let me prove it again. That was different. You were in a prepared position with a planned extraction. This would be pursuit into unknown territory against a target who knows we are coming. Hayes started breaking down his own equipment. The answer is no. Broussard spoke up from his position. Lieutenant Commander, with respect, Reeves has a point. Air assets will not find Khalil. Ground pursuit with a full team will be too slow. But one operator moving light and fast might have a chance. Sullivan nodded. We could provide overwatch from here, coordinate air support if needed, maintain communications. Reeves would not be completely alone. Hayes looked at each member of his team, seeing the same determination reflected in their faces. Then he looked at Reeves. You understand what you are proposing? Khalil will know someone is following him. He will set traps. He will have the home field advantage. I understand. Reeves checked his weapons, his movements automatic and sure. But he also does not know it will be me. He does not know about the sniper who held off 30 insurgents alone. He will expect a team. He will not expect a ghost. Hayes was quiet for a long moment. Then he keyed his radio. Raven 6, Overwatch 7 actual. I am sending one operator in pursuit of the target. Request you classify this as a reconnaissance patrol and provide air support on standby. Another pause. Overwatch 7, what operator are you sending? Petty Officer First Class Reeves. The same operator who saved 6 SEALs 3 weeks ago. The response came back almost immediately. Cleared for operation. Tell Reeves not to be invisible for another 71 hours. We want regular check-ins. Hayes looked at Reeves. You have your mission. Stay in radio contact every 2 hours. If you make contact with Khalil, you call for support before engaging. This is a tracking operation, not a solo assault. Clear? Crystal clear. Reeves stripped down to essential gear. Rifle, carbine, pistol, ammunition, water, minimal rations, radio, GPS, medical kit. Everything else stayed with the team. He would move light and fast, the way he had moved through that wadi 3 weeks ago, except this time he was the hunter instead of the hunted. Kowalski handed him extra medical supplies. Try not to need these, but if you do, you know how to use them. Chun passed over extra magazines. Bring Khalil back in a body bag. For Lieutenant Chun. Reeves accepted the magazines, the weight of them a reminder of what he was carrying. Not just ammunition. Expectations. Trust. The hope of justice for a man who had died too young. Hayes gripped his shoulder. 2-hour check-ins. No exceptions. If we do not hear from you, we are coming after you. Understood. Reeves shouldered his pack and started moving, following the dust trail northeast, tracking the man who had killed his mentor. The terrain grew rougher as he climbed into the foothills, loose scree and sharp rocks that tried to turn every step into a stumble. Reeves moved carefully, placing his feet with precision, maintaining a pace that ate up ground without sacrificing stealth. He had learned patience in 71 hours of waiting. Now he applied that patience to pursuit. The dust trail led to a dirt road that switchbacked up into the mountains. Reeves avoided the road, moving parallel to it through the broken ground, staying low, using terrain to mask his movement. Khalil would have spotters watching the obvious approaches. Reeves would not give them anything obvious to spot. 2 hours in, he called his first check-in. Overwatch 7, this is Spectre 2. I am 5 clicks northeast of last position, moving on target's projected route. No contact. Copy, Spectre 2. Air assets have thermal imagery showing vehicles stop 12 clicks ahead of your position. Looks like they are establishing a temporary camp. Proceed with caution. Reeves acknowledged and kept moving. 12 kilometers. 3 hours at his current pace, maybe 4 given the terrain. He would reach them after dark. Perfect. The sun dropped behind the western ridges, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. Reeves kept climbing, his legs burning, his lungs working hard in the thin mountain air. The bullet wound in his thigh, ached with each step, but he pushed through it. Pain was temporary. Khalil Nazari was the mission. For hours after leaving the team, Reeves reached a position overlooking Khalil's camp. 3 technical trucks parked in a rough circle. A dozen fighters visible, moving around a fire, cooking food, standing guard. No sign of Khalil himself. Reeves found a hide position in the rocks 400 meters from the camp and settled in to observe. Back to basics. Watch and wait. Gather intelligence. Identify the target. His radio crackled quietly. Spectre 2, time for your check-in. Overwatch 7, I have eyes on target camp. Approximately 12 personnel. No positive identification on Khalil yet. Maintaining observation. Copy that. Be advised, weather's moving in. We are tracking a storm system that will hit your area in approximately 6 hours. Recommend you extract before conditions deteriorate. Negative. I am maintaining position until I can confirm or deny Khalil's presence. Your call, Spectre 2. Stay safe. Reeves settled in for another long watch. The familiar sensation of time stretching, of the world narrowing down to the view through his scope. He had done this before. He could do it again. Movement in the camp. A man emerged from one of the trucks, and even at 400 meters, Reeves recognized him. Khalil Nazari. Older than his intelligence photos, grayer, but unmistakably the same man. The man who had planned the ambush that killed Lieutenant Shun. The man who had trained insurgents to kill Americans. The man who had eluded capture for 3 years. Reeves centered his crosshairs on Khalil's chest. One shot. That was all it would take. Justice for Chun. Closure for a wound that had never properly healed. But Hayes had been clear. This was a tracking operation. Call for support before engaging. Reeves keyed his radio. Overwatch 7, Spectre 2. I have positive identification on Khalil Nazari. Target is in camp with approximately 12 bodyguards. Request guidance. Hayes responded immediately. Spectre 2, maintain observation. Do not engage. Air support is spinning up now. ETA to your position 40 minutes. We will coordinate a strike on the camp. 40 minutes. Reeves could hold for 40 minutes. He had held for 71 hours once. 40 minutes was nothing. Except Khalil was moving now, talking to his men, gesturing toward the mountains. Making plans. And one of his fighters was pointing directly at Reeves's position, as if he could see the sniper hidden in the rocks. Khalil pulled out binoculars and scanned the ridgeline. Reeves froze, controlling his breathing, becoming as still as the stones around him. Invisible. Then Khalil lowered the binoculars and smiled. He spoke to his men, and they started breaking camp, loading the trucks, preparing to move. They knew. Somehow, they knew he was here. Reeves keyed his radio. Overwatch 7, they are bugging out. They may my position. If I do not engage now, Khalil will disappear again. Hold your position, Spectre 2. Air support is 35 minutes out. 35 minutes was an eternity. By then, Khalil would be gone, vanished into the mountains, lost for months or years or forever. Reeves watched through his scope as Khalil climbed into the lead truck. The engines were starting. The moment was slipping away. He thought about Lieutenant Shun, bleeding out in a valley while covering his team's withdrawal. Shun had made a choice. He had sacrificed himself for his brothers. Reeves made his choice too. He centered his crosshairs on the lead truck's engine block and fired. The round punched through the radiator. Steam erupted. The truck was disabled. The camp exploded into action. Fighters scattered, searching for the shooter. Khalil was shouting orders, pointing at the ridgeline. Reeves worked his bolt, acquired a new target. One of the other trucks. He fired. The windshield shattered. He fired again. The front tire exploded. His radio was screaming at him. Spectre 2, what are you doing? Break contact and extract. Reeves ignored it. He had committed now. There was no going back. He chambered another round and found Khalil in a scope. The target was moving behind cover, protected by his bodyguards. The third truck was moving, trying to escape. Reeves put 2 rounds through its hood. It coughed and died. All 3 vehicles disabled. Khalil trapped. The fighters were returning fire now, bullets snapping through the rocks to surround Reeves's position. He shifted, relocated, found new cover. This was no longer a tracking operation. This was a one-man siege, and Reeves had just declared war. The firefight was chaos controlled only by Reeves's training. 12 insurgents spread across the camp, taking cover behind disabled vehicles and rocks, pouring fire toward his position. Muzzle flashes lit up the growing darkness. Rounds ricocheted off stone, whining past his head close enough to feel the heat. Reeves methodically engaged targets, using the high ground advantage, making each shot count. A fighter exposed himself, trying to flank. Reeves dropped him. Another tried to reach a better firing position. Reeves put him down before he got there. His radio was still screaming. Spectre 2 acknowledge. Reeves respond. He keyed the handset while working his bolt. Overwatch 7. I am engaged with enemy forces. Khalil is pinned in the camp. Send air support to my position immediately. Hayes's voice was tight, with controlled fury and fear. Reeves, you just signed your own death warrant. There are 12 of them and one of you. Break contact now while you still can. Negative. If I break contact, Khalil escapes. I am holding this position until air support arrives. Reeves fired again, hitting an insurgent who was trying to set up a machine gun. 29 minutes until the helicopters. The storm clouds Hayes had warned about were rolling in, dark and heavy, blotting out the stars. Wind picked up, gusting across the ridgeline, making every shot harder. Reeves compensated automatically, reading the wind, adjusting his aim, maintaining his rate of fire. Khalil was shouting orders from behind one of the disabled trucks. Reeves could hear him even over the gunfire, his voice carrying authority and rage. He was coordinating his men, organizing them, turning random return fire into directed suppression. 3 fighters broke cover simultaneously, rushing Reeves's position from different angles. Classic bounding Overwatch. They had done this before. Reeves engaged the closest threat first, dropped him, shifted to the second, fired, missed, fired again. The second man went down. The third made it to cover 30 meters closer to Reeves's position. Too close. They were closing the distance, using fire and movement to overwhelm his ability to engage multiple targets. Reeves transitioned to his M4 carbine, the weapon better suited for closer range fighting. He put a 3-round burst into the insurgent's cover position, suppressing him, buying seconds. Thunder rolled across the mountains. Not artillery. Actual Sander. The storm was almost here. 2 more fighters rushed forward while Reeves was focused on the first. He swung his carbine, engaged them, dropped one. The other made it to a boulder 15 meters from his position, close enough to throw a grenade. Reeves saw it coming, the dark shape arcing through the air. He rolled left as the grenade detonated, the blast wave hammering him even through the rocks he had used for cover. His ears rang. Shrapnel peppered his position. He came up firing, putting rounds through the boulder where the grenade thrower was hiding. The insurgent fell back, hit, maybe dead, maybe just wounded. Reeves did not have time to confirm. Movement to his right. Another fighter had used the grenade as a distraction, climbing the ridgeline, trying to get above Reeves's position. Reeves pivoted and fired. The insurgent tumbled backward down the slope. His radio crackled through the static. Spectre 2, Hawk 1-8 is inbound, ETA 22 minutes. Weather is degrading rapidly. They may not be able to reach you if this storm hits. They need to get here. Reeves reloaded his carbine. Khalil is still in the camp. I can keep him pinned. Can you keep yourself alive for 22 minutes? Reeves looked at his ammunition. 2 magazines left for his carbine. 14 rounds in his sniper rifle. 3 magazines for his pistol. The math was getting ugly again. I can try. The rain started, fat drops that turned into sheets within seconds. Visibility dropped to almost nothing. The mountains disappeared behind walls of water. Lightning flashed, illuminating the battlefield in stark white snapshots. Reeves used the lightning, timing his shots with the flashes, using the momentary illumination to acquire targets. Flash. Fire. Darkness. Reload. Flash. Fire. Darkness. The insurgents were struggling with the storm too, their fire becoming sporadic and inaccurate. But they were still moving, still advancing, using the rain as concealment. A figure emerged from the downpour 10 meters to Reeves's left. Too close for the carbine. Reeves transitioned to his pistol, the SIG Sour coming up smooth and fast. 3-shot center mass. The insurgent dropped. Another fighter appeared on his right. Reeves fired. The slide locked back. Empty magazine. He dropped it, slapped in a fresh one, chambered around. The whole transition took 2 seconds, but 2 seconds was an eternity in close-quarters combat. The insurgent got a burst off, rounds impacting the rocks inches from Reeves's head. Reeves returned fire. The insurgent went down. His radio crackled again, the signal breaking up in the storm. Spectre, weather, aboard extract. The transmission was too broken to understand, but Reeves could guess what Hayes was saying. The helicopters could not fly in this weather. Air support was not coming. Reeves was alone, just like he had been in that valley 3 weeks ago. Alone against impossible odds with nothing but his training and his will to survive. Lightning flashed. Reeves counted 5 insurgents, still moving, still fighting. Plus Khalil, who was somewhere behind those disabled trucks. 6 enemies. 1 magazine left for his carbine. 11 rounds in his pistol. 14 in his sniper rifle, if he could get back to it. The mathematics said he was going to die here. But mathematics did not account for the fact that Jordan Reeves had already decided he was not dying in these mountains. Not until Khalil Nazari paid for what he had done. 2 insurgents rushed his position together, firing wildly, trying to overwhelm him with aggression. Reeves met them with controlled violence, his carbine barking short, precise bursts. Both went down. His bolt locked back. Last magazine empty. He transitioned to his pistol as a third fighter came around a rock outcropping. They saw each other at the same instant. The insurgent was bringing up an AK-47. Reeves was faster. 3 rounds. The man collapsed. Movement behind him. Reeves spun. An insurgent had climbed the backside of the ridge, coming at him from an angle he had not been watching. The man fired. Reeves felt something punch his left shoulder, hot and violent. He returned fire, emptying his pistol into the insurgent's chest. The man went down. Reeves dropped behind cover, his shoulder screaming. Blood was running down his arm. He tried to reload his pistol one-handed, but his left arm was not responding properly. The magazine clattered against the rocks. Footsteps. Someone moving fast through the rain. Reeves grabbed his knife, the only weapon he had left that did not require reloading. If they wanted him, they would have to take him in close. A figure emerged from the rain. Reeves prepared to lunge. Then he recognized the silhouette. Hayes. Behind him, Broussard, Martinez, Chun, Kowalski, Sullivan. The whole team, soaking wet, weapons up, moving into position around Reeves's batterhide site. Hayes knelt beside him. You idiot. You magnificent idiot. He was already assessing Reeves's wound. Kowalski, get over here. How did you get here? The helicopters could not fly, so we drove. Hayes grinned through the rain. You think we were going to let our sniper have all the fun? The team spread out, establishing a perimeter, engaging the remaining insurgents with overwhelming firepower. Broussard's machine gun roared, tracers cutting through the rain. Martinez lobbed a grenade that detonated with a flash that momentarily turned night into day. The fight was over in seconds. The remaining insurgents broke and ran, disappearing into the storm, leaving their dead behind. Hayes helped Reeves to his feet. Where's Khalil? Reeves pointed toward the disabled trucks. Behind that one. Middle vehicle. Hayes spoke into his radio. Chun, Sullivan, secure the target. Everyone else, perimeter security. We are not done until we have confirmation. Chun and Sullivan moved toward the trucks, weapons up, moving with tactical precision. They cleared the first vehicle, then the second. Then Chen's voice came over the radio. We have 1 body. Male, approximate age 50, multiple gunshot wounds. Checking identification now. There was a pause that felt like an eternity. Then Chen spoke again. Confirmed. Khalil Nazari. The target is down. I repeat, target is down. Reeves felt something release in his chest. A weight he had been carrying since the day Lieutenant Chen died. Not gone. It would never be completely gone, but lighter. Khalil would not kill anyone else. Would not plan any more ambushes. Would not send any more Americans home in flag-draped coffins. Hayes was looking at him with an expression that mixed pride and exasperation. You just could not let the helicopters handle it, could you? Reeves managed a weak smile. I am impatient. You are reckless. Hayes shook his head. But you're also the most effective operator I have ever seen. Kowalski says your shoulder is through and through, no bone involvement. You will live to disobey orders another day. The team gathered around Reeves, wet and exhausted and victorious. They had come for him when air support could not. They had driven through a storm into hostile territory to back up their sniper, their brother. Broussard clapped Reeves on his good shoulder. Next time you want to start a one-man war, give us a heads up. We'll like to be fashionably late, but not that late. Sullivan handed him a water bottle. Drink. You look like hell. Reeves drank, the water washing away the taste of cordite and rain and exhaustion. I feel like hell. Shin grinned. You just took down Khalil Nazari solo while wounded in a thunderstorm. You have earned the right to feel like hell. The storm was passing, the rain easing to a drizzle. In the distance, Reeves could hear the sound of helicopter rotors. Air support, arriving now that the worst of the weather had cleared. Late to the party, but coming anyway. Hayes spoke into his radio. Raven 6, Overwatch 7. Target is confirmed Kia. Requesting medevac for 1 wounded and transport for team extraction. Mission accomplished. They stood together in the rain, 7 warriors who had gone into the mountains and come out with justice. Not the clean justice of arrest and trial. The messy justice of combat. But justice nonetheless. Reeves looked at his team, these men who had become his brothers, and knew that whatever came next, he would not face it alone. Never alone again. The medevac helicopter landed in a storm of rotor wash that scattered the last of the rain clouds. Reeves sat on the ground with his back against a rock, Kowalski finishing the field dressing on his shoulder wound. The bullet had gone clean through, missing bone and major vessels, but the pain was significant and getting worse as the adrenaline wore off. Hayes crouched beside him. That is 2 gunshot wounds in 3 weeks. You're making a habit of getting shot. I'm making a habit of completing missions. Reeves winced as Kowalski tightened the bandage. Getting shot is just a side effect. A side effect we would prefer you avoid. Hayes stood and offered his hand. Come on, let us get you to the bird. Reeves accepted the help, letting Hayes pull him to his feet. His legs were unsteady, exhaustion and blood loss making the world tilt slightly. Broussard appeared on his other side, providing additional support. Easy does it, brother. We did not come all this way just to watch you fall down. They moved toward the helicopter together, the team forming a protective cordon around their wounded sniper. The crew chief helped Reeves aboard, settling him on a litter while Kowalski gave the medical brief to the flight medic. Sullivan climbed in last, carrying something wrapped in a tarp. Hayes raised an eyebrow. What is that? Khalil's rifle. Sullivan unwrapped it enough to show an ornate AK-47 with gold inlay and custom engraving. Figured Reeves might want a trophy. Hayes looked at Reeves, who shook his head weakly. Give it to Lieutenant Shin's family. Tell them justice was served. Sullivan nodded and rewrapped the rifle. That is a good call. They will appreciate it. The helicopter lifted off, leaving the mountain camp behind. Reeves watched through the open door as the battlefield shrank below them, the disabled trucks and scattered equipment becoming small dark shapes against the rain-soaked ground. Somewhere down, there was Khalil Nazari's body, the end of a 3-year hunt, the conclusion of a vendetta that had started the day Lieutenant Shin died. He sat down next to him. You know there will be another debrief. Another conversation about following orders. I know. Reeves closed his eyes. But Khalil is dead. That has to count for something. It counts for everything. Hayes was quiet for a moment. Shin was my instructor at BUD/S. Did you know that? Reeves opened his eyes. No, I did not. Best officer I ever served under. He taught me that being a SEAL was not about following orders blindly. It was about having the judgment to know when the mission mattered more than the protocol. Hayes looked at Reeves directly. You have that judgment. That is why you are on this team. That is why you will stay on this team regardless of what the brass says. The flight to Bagram took 40 minutes. By the time they landed, Reeves was drifting in and out of consciousness, the blood loss and exhaustion finally catching up with him. The medical team met them on the tarmac, transferring Reeves to a gurney, wheeling him toward the field hospital. He woke up 6 hours later in the same hospital bed he had occupied 3 weeks earlier. The same four in his arm, the same ache in his body, different bullet hole. The corpseman from before was there, shaking his head with a mixture of amusement and exasperation. Petty Officer Reeves, we have to stop meeting like this. I will try to stay out of trouble. Reeves's voice was hoarse. How bad is it? Through and through, clean wound, no complications. You will be on light duty again for a few weeks. The corpseman checked his vitals. You are either the luckiest SEAL I have ever met or the unluckiest. I have not decided which. A little bit of both, probably. The door opened and Senior Chief Dalton walked in, carrying a folder and wearing an expression that Reeves could not quite read. The corpseman excused himself quickly. Dalton pulled up a chair. Petty Officer Reeves, we seem to keep having these conversations. Yes, Senior Chief. Let me see if I have this correct. You violated orders by engaging in a tracking operation that was supposed to be observe and report only. You initiated contact with a numerically superior force. You fought a run-and-gun battle while wounded and outnumbered. And in the process, you killed Khalil Nazari, one of the highest value targets in this sector. Dalton opened his folder. Does that about cover it? That is accurate, Senior Chief. Dalton pulled out a document and set it on the bedside table. This is a letter of reprimand for failure to follow orders and engagement without proper authorization. It will go in your permanent record. Reeves nodded. I understand. Dalton pulled out a second document. This is a recommendation for the Silver Star for conspicuous gallantry in action against an enemy of the United States. It will also go in your permanent record. Reeves blinked. What? You disobeyed orders. But you also eliminated a target who has been responsible for the deaths of 11 American service members and countless Afghan civilians. You demonstrated tactical excellence under extreme conditions. You showed the kind of courage and initiative that this war demands. Dalton stood up. The Navy does not like operators who cannot follow orders. But we need operators who know when to break them. You're one of the good ones, Reeves. Do not make me regret saying that. After Dalton left, Reeves lay back and stared at the ceiling. Reprimand and medal. Punishment and praise. The contradictions of military service distilled into 2 pieces of paper. The door opened again. This time it was the entire team, carrying contraband pizza and energy drinks. Hayes set the pizza box on the bedside table. Hospital food is terrible. We brought sustenance. You're going to get me in trouble sneaking food in here. Brother, you are already in trouble. Might as well eat pizza while you are at it. Broussard opened the box. Besides, we are celebrating. Celebrating what? Chun held up his phone, showing a news article. Khalil Nazari confirmed dead. Major blow to insurgent operations. Attributed to Coalition Special Operations Forces. They cannot say it was us specifically, but everyone who matters knows. Martinez raised an energy drink in a mock toast. To Reeves, the only SEAL who gets shot more often than he gets promoted. To Reeves, the team echoed, laughing. They stayed for an hour, eating pizza, sharing stories, giving Reeves a hard time about his tendency to get wounded. It was the kind of camaraderie that could only exist between people who had faced death together and come out the other side. Eventually, a nurse chased them out, but not before Hayes pulled Reeves aside. We have a mission brief in 2 weeks. Assuming you are cleared medically, you are our primary sniper. I need to know if you're still up for it. Reeves thought about the 71 hours of isolation, the 14 minutes of saving a SEAL team, the 2 hours of pursuing Khalil, the bullet wounds, the exhaustion, the weight of choices that saved lives and took them. I'm up for it. I'm exactly where I need to be. Hayes smiled. Good, because this team is not the same without you. After they left, Reeves closed his eyes and let himself rest. For the first time since Lieutenant Chen's death, he felt something close to peace. The vendetta was complete. The debt was paid. Khalil would not hurt anyone else. But more than that, Reeves had found something he thought he had lost when his injury took him away from 2nd Platoon. He had found brothers who trusted him, who had his back, who would drive through a storm to save him when air support could not fly. He had found his team, his home. In the morning, there would be more paperwork, more debriefs, more questions about his decisions. But right now, in this moment, Jordan Reeves was exactly where he was supposed to be. A SEAL, a sniper, a brother, part of something bigger than himself. No longer invisible, no longer alone. Finally, truly home. The mission that had started 71 hours ago in a mountain observation post had led him here. Through ambushes and firefights, through wounds and choices, through loneliness and belonging. And if the price of that journey was a few bullet holes and a letter of reprimand, it was a price Reeves would pay 1,000 times over. He had been invisible for 71 hours, but the 2 hours that followed had shown him who he really was. Not a ghost, not a loner, not someone meant to operate alone. A warrior, a protector, a brother in arms. And that, Reeves thought as sleep finally claimed him, was worth more than all the medals in the world. 2 weeks later, Reeves stood in formation at Bagram Airfield wearing his dress uniform, his left arm still in a sling, but healing well. The entire SEAL task force was assembled, along with senior officers from Joint Special Operations Command. The ceremony was for multiple awards, but Reeves knew his moment was coming. Lieutenant Commander Hayes stood beside him, also in dress uniform, also receiving an award. The team had been recognized for the operation that killed Khalil Nazari, though the official record would remain classified for years. A brigadier general stepped forward with the citations. The Silver Star is presented to Petty Officer First Class Jordan Reeves for conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity in action against the enemy. While conducting a solo reconnaissance mission, Petty Officer Reeves observed a friendly SEAL element under attack by a numerically superior enemy force. Without regard for his own safety and in direct violation of mission parameters requiring strict observation only, Petty Officer Reeves engaged the enemy, killing multiple hostile combatants and preventing friendly casualties. His actions were in keeping with the highest traditions of the United States Naval Service. The general pinned the medal to Reeves's uniform. "Well done, Petty Officer. The Navy is proud of you." "Thank you, sir." Reeves saluted, his movements crisp despite the healing shoulder wound. The ceremony continued with awards for the rest of the team. When it concluded, the formation broke, and people moved toward the reception area where coffee and pastries had been set up. Reeves found himself surrounded by SEALs he barely knew, all wanting to shake his hand, hear the story, understand how one operator had held off an insurgent force alone. Hayes rescued him after 10 minutes, pulling him aside. "You are the man of the hour. Enjoy it while it lasts." "I preferred being invisible," Reeves said with a slight smile. "Too late for that. You're a legend now. The ghost sniper who saved Team 3 and killed Khalil Nazari." Hayes handed him a cup of coffee. "Speaking of which, I have news about your next mission." "We have a mission already?" "Always." Hayes pulled out a tablet, showing satellite imagery. "There's a compound in the Karangal Valley that intelligence believes is being used as a training facility for foreign fighters. We insert in 4 days. Full team operation. You will provide overwatch while we clear the compound." Reeves studied the imagery, already calculating angles and distances. This ridgeline would work for observation. Good fields of fire, multiple egress routes. "That is what I thought too." Hayes looked at him carefully. "Are you ready? The doc cleared you medically, but I need to know if you're ready mentally." Reeves thought about the question. Was he ready to go back into the mountains? Ready to face combat again after 2 bullet wounds in 3 weeks? Ready to put his life on the line alongside brothers who depended on him? "I am ready. This is what I do. What we do." "Good answer." Hayes clapped him on the shoulder, the good one. "Because this team needs its sniper. And that sniper is you." A voice called from across the room. "Reeves, you have a visitor." Reeves turned to see an older woman in civilian clothes standing near the entrance, accompanied by a younger man in Marine Corps dress blues. He did not recognize them immediately, but Hayes did. "That is Lieutenant Chin's mother and brother." Hayes spoke quietly. "They wanted to meet you." Reeves felt his stomach tighten. He had never met Chin's family, never knew what to say to the people whose son and brother had died while Reeves was recovering from an injury stateside. He walked over slowly. The woman looked at him with eyes that were both sad and kind. She could not have been more than 5 feet tall, but she carried herself with a dignity that made her seem much larger. Petty Officer Reeves. I am Margaret Chun. This is my son, Captain David Chun, United States Marine Corps. The Marine captain extended his hand. My brother spoke highly of you. He said you had the makings of an exceptional SEAL. Reeves shook his hand, struggling to find words. Your brother was my mentor. He taught me everything that matters. I'm sorry I was not there when he needed me. Margaret Chun reached up and touched Reeves's arm. My son made a choice that day. He chose to save his brothers. That is who he was. She pulled something from her purse, a small wooden box. We received this from your senior chief, Dalton. Khalil Nazari's rifle. He told us you insisted we have it. She opened the box, revealing not the rifle, but a plaque mounted with a photograph of Lieutenant Chun in his dress uniform, along with a brass plate engraved with words Reeves recognized from the SEAL ethos. Below the plaque was a single bullet casing. Senior Chief Dalton told us this was the casing from the round that killed Khalil. David Chun pointed to the engraving. He said you wanted us to know that justice was served, that the man who killed our brother would never hurt anyone else. Reeves felt his throat tighten. That is correct, ma'am. Khalil will not hurt anyone else. Margaret Chun looked at him with tears in her eyes. Thank you. Thank you for honoring my son. Thank you for making sure his death meant something. Your son's death meant everything. Reeves found his voice. He taught me that being a SEAL is not about the missions or the medals. It is about the brothers standing beside you. Every choice I make, every mission I complete, I carry his lessons with me. He will be proud of you, Captain Chun said. Proud that you saved those 6 SEALs. Proud that you finished what he started with Khalil. Proud that you are carrying on his legacy. They talked for another 20 minutes, sharing stories about Lieutenant Chun, laughing at memories, honoring a man who had died too young, but had lived with purpose. When they finally said goodbye, Reeves felt lighter somehow, as if a weight he had been carrying had been shared with people who understood. Hayes found him afterward. That was hard, but necessary. Reeves watched the Chun family leave. They needed to know their son mattered, that his death was not meaningless. It was not meaningless. None of this is meaningless. Hayes gestured to the room full of warriors, the medals, the brotherhood. This is what we do. We stand between the darkness and the people we love. Sometimes we pay the price, but we pay it willingly because the alternative is unacceptable. The reception wound down. The team gathered outside, preparing to head back to their compound. Sullivan was already planning their pre-mission training schedule. Martinez was arguing with Broussard about the best approach to the compound. Kowalski was reviewing medical protocols. Chun was checking equipment lists. Normal. Professional. Brothers preparing for the next mission. Hayes pulled Reeves aside one more time. I want you to know something. When I asked for you on this team, some people questioned it. Said you were too much of a loner. Said you could not work well with others. Said your injury had made you unreliable. Reeves raised an eyebrow. What changed their minds? You did. You saved 6 SEALs when you could have stayed hidden. You pursued Khalil when you could have waited for air support. You fought alongside this team when you could have operated alone. Hayes smiled. You're not a loner, Reeves. You never were. You were just waiting for the right team. This is the right team, Reeves said simply. Damn right it is. Hayes started walking toward the waiting vehicle. Come on. We have mission prep to conduct and only 4 days to do it. Reeves fell in a step beside him, joining his brothers as they moved toward their next mission. The silver star on his chest caught the sunlight, but it was not the medal that mattered. It was the men walking beside him, the trust they shared, the bond that had been forged in combat and tested in fire. He thought about the 71 hours he had spent alone in that mountain observation post. 71 hours of isolation that had led to 14 minutes of decision and 2 hours of consequence. All of it culminating in this moment, walking with his team, belonging to something greater than himself. Lieutenant Chun had taught him well. Being a SEAL was not about the individual. It was about the team, the brotherhood, the unwavering commitment to stand together no matter the cost. Reeves had been invisible for 71 hours, but those hours had shown him what truly mattered. Not the solitude, not the independence, but the moments when you chose to step out of the shadows and fight alongside your brothers. He was invisible no more. He was seen, valued, needed, trusted. He was home, and in 4 days, he would prove it again. Not alone, never alone again. With his team, his brothers, his family, exactly where he was meant to be. 4 days later, Reeves lay in a new observation post overlooking the Karangal Valley, his rifle settled against his shoulder, his breathing slow and controlled. But this time he was not alone. Hayes was 10 meters to his left with a spotting scope. Broussard was positioned 50 meters back with his machine gun, ready to provide covering fire if needed. The rest of the team was moving through the valley below, approaching the compound that intelligence had identified as a training facility. "This is Overwatch 7. Hayes spoke quietly into his radio. "We have eyes on the compound. Team 1, you are clear to advance." "Copy, Overwatch 7. Martinez's voice came back calm and professional. "Moving now." Reeves watched through his scope as Martinez led Chun and Sullivan toward the compound's outer wall. Their movement was textbook perfect, using cover and concealment, maintaining proper spacing, weapons ready, but not threatening to any observers who might be watching from the village beyond. This was what real teamwork looked like. Not one sniper alone against impossible odds, but a coordinated operation where everyone had their role, everyone trusted each other, everyone worked together toward the mission objective. Movement on the compound roof. Reeves acquired the target, identified him as a sentry with an AK-47. "Overwatch 7. I have one sentry on the north rooftop. He is not aware of Team 1's approach. Keep him in your sights, but do not engage unless he becomes a threat," Hayes responded. "We go loud only if necessary." "Understood." Reeves tracked the sentry, his finger resting lightly outside the trigger guard. Ready but patient, watching but not acting. This was the discipline that Senior Chief Dalton had wanted from him in that first solo mission. The ability to observe without interfering. Except now, if the situation changed, if his brothers needed him, he would not hesitate. He had learned that sometimes the mission was not about following orders. Sometimes the mission was about doing what needed to be done. Team 1 reached the compound wall. Martinez placed a small breaching charge on the door, while Chun and Sullivan provided security. The charge detonated with a muffled crack. The team flowed through the breach, weapons up, moving like water through the compound's interior. The sentry on the roof finally noticed something was wrong. He raised his rifle, scanning the compound below, trying to understand what had just happened. "Sentry is becoming alert," Reeves called. "He has not identified our team yet, but he is searching." "Stand by," Hayes said. "Let him search. Our guys are already inside." The sentry moved along the rooftop, his AK-47 at the ready. Then he stopped, looking directly at the doorway where Team 1 had entered. His rifle started to come up. Reeves made the decision in a microsecond. Target is acquiring Team 1's entry point. Taking the shot. Hayes did not countermand the order. "Send it." Reeves pressed the trigger. The rifle bucked. 430 meters downrange, the sentry dropped his weapon and collapsed. The shot echoed across the valley and died away into silence. "Good hit." Hayes keyed his radio. "Team 1, you had a sentry about to compromise your position. He is no longer a threat. Continue mission." "Copy, Overwatch 7. Continuing." The compound clearance took 12 minutes. The team moved methodically through each building, searching for intelligence, documenting what they found, ensuring no threats remained. Reeves maintained Overwatch the entire time, scanning for additional enemies, watching the surrounding area, protecting his brothers from threats they could not see. This was his purpose, not to be alone, not to operate in isolation, but to be the guardian angel watching over his team, the unseen protector making sure they came home alive. Team 1 emerged from the compound, carrying document cases and computer equipment. Martinez's voice came over the radio. "Compound is clear. We have significant intelligence materials. No enemy personnel remaining. Recommend we extract before local militia responds." "Copy, Team 1. Move to primary extraction point. We will provide overwatch during your movement." Reeves and Hayes packed their equipment, while Broussard maintained security. Then they moved as a unit, bounding backward, covering each other, moving toward the extraction point where helicopters would meet them. The mission was complete. Clean, professional by the book. No casualties. No complications. Just a well-executed operation that would provide intelligence for future missions. This was what SEAL operations were supposed to look like when everything went right. The helicopters arrived on schedule. The team loaded up, equipment and intelligence material secured. As they lifted off, Reeves looked down at the valley that had almost become another battlefield. But this time, discipline and teamwork had won. No shots fired except the one necessary to protect his brothers. Back at Bagram, the team conducted a quick debrief. Hayes praised the execution, noted areas for improvement, scheduled the next training evolution. Professional, efficient, the routine of warriors who knew their craft. Afterward, the team gathered in their team room, the informal space where they could relax and be themselves. Sullivan was already making coffee. Broussard was cleaning his machine gun. Martinez was reviewing photos from the mission on his laptop. Chin sat down next to Reeves. That was a good shot today. The sentry never knew what hit him. Just doing my job. Reeves was field stripping his rifle, cleaning it with practiced efficiency. Your job seems to involve a lot of making impossible shots look easy. Chin smiled. I'm glad you're on our side. Hayes walked in carrying a box. Gather around. I have something for you. The team assembled as Hayes opened the box and pulled out patches. Team 3 logos, custom designed with a ghost sniper image in the center. Below it, words that made Reeves's chest tighten with emotion. Never alone. Never invisible. These are our new team patches, Hayes said. They represent what we learned from our newest member. That no SEAL operates alone. That we watch over each other. That the strongest warrior is the one who stands with his brothers. He handed a patch to each team member, saving Reeves for last. This one is yours. You earned it by showing us what it means to sacrifice for your team. By choosing your brothers over your orders. By proving that the mission is not about the individual. It is about the family we have built. Reeves took the patch, running his thumb over the embroidered design. For 71 hours, I thought being a SEAL meant being strong enough to stand alone. You show me I was wrong. Being a SEAL means being strong enough to trust your brothers. Hayes smiled. That is the lesson. Now, let us make sure we never forget it. The team spent the evening together, sharing stories, planning the next mission, existing in the comfortable silence of men who trusted each other completely. This was home, not a building or a base, but the space created when warriors chose to stand together. Later, Reeves stepped outside into the Afghan night. The stars were brilliant overhead, the same stars that had watched over him during those 71 hours in the mountains. But everything was different now. He was different. He thought about the journey that had brought him here, the injury that had separated him from 2nd Platoon, the solo mission that had tested his discipline, the choice to save 6 SEALs that had changed everything, the pursuit of Khalil that had brought closure, the team that had accepted him not despite his choices, but because of them. Every step had been necessary. Every choice had mattered. Every moment of pain and doubt and struggle had led him to this place, with these men doing this work. He stepped outside to join him, thinking about the next mission, thinking about the last one. All of them. How they brought me here. Regrets? Not one. Reeves looked at his team leader, his friend, his brother. I spent 71 hours invisible, watching, waiting alone. Those hours taught me patience and discipline. But the 2 hours that followed taught me what really matters. That some choices are worth any consequence. That brotherhood is stronger than orders. That the right team can accomplish anything. Hayes nodded. Lieutenant Shun taught you well. And now you're teaching us. That is how this works. We learn from each other. We carry forward the lessons of those who came before. We become better warriors and better brothers. The door opened and the rest of the team filed out, drawn by some unspoken understanding that this moment mattered. Broussard raised an energy drink. To Team 3, the best damn SEAL team in the Navy. To Lieutenant Shun, Martinez added, who taught us what it means to sacrifice. To the mission, Sullivan said, whatever comes next. To brotherhood, Kowalski offered, the only thing that matters. Shun looked at Reeves. To our sniper, who shows us every day what it means to watch over your brothers. They all looked at Reeves, waiting for his toast. He thought for a moment, then raised his own drink. To being invisible when the mission demands it, and to being visible when your brothers need you. To never standing alone, to carrying each other through whatever comes next. To Team 3, they said in unison. They stood together under the Afghan stars, 7 warriors bound by choices and sacrifice and trust. The missions would continue. The dangers would persist. The cost would be paid, but they would face it all together. Never alone, never invisible to each other. Always watching, always protecting, always brothers. Jordan Reeves had learned the hardest lesson a warrior could learn. That true strength was not found in isolation, but in connection. Not in independence, but in interdependence. Not in being the lone wolf, but in being part of the pack. He had been invisible for 71 hours. Those hours had forged him in fire and tested him beyond measure. But the hours that followed had given him something far more valuable than any test could provide. They had given him his team, his brothers, his home, and in 4 days, they would step into the darkness again together, ready for whatever came next, confident in each other, trusting completely, because that was what SEALs did. They stood together. They fought together. They came home together, never alone, never invisible, always brothers, always Team 3. If this story moved you, drop a comment about your favorite moment, or tell us about someone who showed incredible courage under impossible odds. Share if you know someone who has served or sacrificed for their brothers in arms.